Rico Abreu steals one late at Kokomo. Justin Peck gets his first win of the year, and the biggest sprint car race of the season so far is coming up this weekend. Let's get into it here on this week's edition of the High Limit Room. High Limit was in action this week at two different racetracks in two different states. We kicked things off on Monday night at the Kokomo Speedway. After rainouts at both Texarkana 67 and 81 Speedway, the Roto-Rooter Midweek Series was off to a cold start, but finally on Monday night, we were able to get down to business at the Kokomo Speedway for the Driven to Save Lives Monday Mayhem. 33 cars signed into the pit area for the third series visit in history, and things got off to a pretty interesting start with Aaron Reitzel shattering the previous track record during Capital Custom Trailer qualifying. His lap of 10.791 seconds took down the record by over a tenth of a second there. And after qualifying, there were officially three drivers underneath of that old track record: Reitzel, Parker Price Miller, and Dason Persley. In the heat races, we saw winners going to Tyler Courtney, Brady Bacon, Brad Sweet, and Justin Peck. And in the feature, it was a front row that was shared between Rico Abreu and Justin Peck, with Peck getting the jump on the start and weaving his way through traffic virtually unchallenged the entire way. A yellow, however, on lap 23 for a slowing Parker Price Miller would bunch the field back up, and even after that yellow came out, it did look like this was going to be Justin Peck's race to lose, and he would pull away from Rico Abreu again. But with 2 laps to go, Rico's car came to life on the top side of the racetrack, and coming to the checkered flag, Rico Abreu went full send on the cushion and stole the win, leading only maybe the last 100 feet or so of the race coming off of turn number 4, robbing Justin Peck of his first win of the season and netting Abreu his third win of 2025. The margin of victory was just 1/10 of a second over Justin Peck, Brad Sweet, Tyler Courtney, and Brady Bacon. That would be Bacon's second top 5 finish of the year with High Limit in very limited starts, and he's done it in 2 different race cars. Remember, back at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, he got a top 5 there as well in the Josh Ford Motorsports number 73. Then we were supposed to continue on with the midweek excitement, but it did not last very long. On Wednesday night, Mother Nature took yet another midweek series race away from us at the Fremont Speedway in Fremont, Ohio. But luckily, if you missed it, High Limit officials and Fremont Speedway were able to reschedule this date, and now it is during the same week as the Joker's Jackpot and the King's Royal at Eldora Speedway, making it 6 straight days of national touring sprint car racing in the state of Ohio. High Limit kicks things off on Monday, July 14th for the rescheduled Fremont date. Tuesday, the Outlaws are at Attica. Wednesday and Thursday, High Limit at Eldora. And then Friday and Saturday, the Outlaws at Eldora for the King's Royal. So just to clarify, if you are trying to go to this race at Fremont, the reschedule is on Monday, July 14th. We hope to see you there. Now, the final race that we were actually able to get in and complete this week took place at the Ransomville Speedway in Western New York. For the first time in series history, we showed up there to that 3/8 mile oval, and it came with a solid field of 28 cars in the pit area. Qualifying for the second race in a row was quite the story. Even though we did not get a track record or anything like that, it was Geneva, New York's own Jonathan Preston who would end up as the Capital Custom Trailer Fast Time qualifier, and that would not be the last time you would hear about the Northeast drivers performing in this night of action. Skipping ahead to the B main, I did also want to give a shout out to Jordan Thomas, who made a last lap move through the middle part of the racetrack to take the final transfer spot away from high roller Chase Randall in thrilling fashion. The B main at Ransomville was very, very good. Then in the feature, it was Tyler Courtney and Rico Abreu sharing the front row, and a great opportunity for Sunshine to finally get that first win of the season, but it did not come to fruition. While Weikert working their way through lap traffic, Justin Peck was able to make a bold move to the inside of Tyler Courtney in turn 3 and take the lead at the halfway point of the race. Peck would lead the last 15 laps and get redemption in Ransomville after the heartbreaking loss on Monday at Kokomo. The win also marked the first for Rudine Racing and the first for the Ford Performance Engine with High Limit Racing, and it was the third High Limit Racing win of Justin Peck's career. Behind Peck, Tyler Courtney came home second, Aaron Reitzel third, Rico Abreu fourth, and Danny Varon with a top 5 run in his his first 410 start of the 2025 season. Nice job by the driver from Fondo, New York. Also wanted to give a shout out to Jordan Poirier, the driver from Quebec, Canada. He ended up in the P6 position, and Jonathan Preston, we talked about him earlier with the Fast Time Award, he would end up inside the top 10. So a nice job by those guys to perform in their home region against the best drivers in the country. Then on Saturday night, it was one night later, unfortunately, we were not able to get any action in Vernon, New York at the Utica Rome Speedway. For the 8th time this year, High Limit Racing was rained out, but hopefully we will be able to see all of our New York fans in 2026 at Utica Rome Speedway. It's unfortunate, but we cannot change how the weather cooperates with us here. It has been tough to start 2025 when it comes to that aspect of High Limit Racing. Now let's get into our race previews for this upcoming week. Looking ahead to this week, it's time for High Limit Racing to return to action against the PA Posse. First off, it's a stop at the Grandview Speedway in Bechtelsville, Pennsylvania. That is going to be on Tuesday night, May 20th, for the Levan Machine Truck Equipment presents Richmar Florist High Limit Racing event. Last season, this race ended with a last lap pass by Brent Marks on Tyler Courtney to steal the Roto-Rooter Midweek Series win. And in 2023, it was Rico Abreu who grabbed the win with High Limit Racing over there at Grandview. As of this recording, we are expecting over 30 cars to be in the field on Tuesday night at the entertaining 3/8 mile. We have names like Macri, Dietrich, Chase Dietz, Lucas Wolf, Ashton Torgerson, Corey Day, Brock Zierfoss, Australian Ryan Newton. And if the weather cooperates, we are expecting to potentially see Christopher Bell show up as well in the Kreitz Racing 69K. So a really solid field of cars is scheduled to be over there at Grandview Speedway. And that all leads up to what is going to be the biggest race of the year so far in 410 sprint car racing. We wrap the week up with the Bob Weikert Memorial at the Port Royal Speedway. For the first time in this event's history, it has been expanded to a 3-day event with racing on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Friday and Saturday, $10,000 to win prelims, but Sunday will end with a $75,000 payday, which will be the highest payout for a sprint car event so far this year in 2025. Last year, it was a popular and emotional win for Pennsylvania's own Danny Dietrich, as he was able to score the biggest win of his career, all while driving the Weikert's Livestock number 29 over a huge field of 53 cars. We are once again expecting another really, really good field for the Weikert. Port Royal has been absolutely on point so far this season. Just see last Saturday's race between Anthony Macri and Garrett Bard as an example. Speaking of Macri, though, when you look at the last 5 Bob Weikert Memorial winners, his name pops up more than any other. Last year, we mentioned it was Danny Dietrich. Macri won this race in 23 and in 2022. 2021, it was Lance DeWeese, and in 2020, it was Kyle Larson. But with names like Justin Whittle, you got Ryan Smith going to be showing up, Chase Dietz, Lance DeWeese, Logan Wagner, Mike Wagner, Brock Zierfoss, and a whole host of 14 other high rollers. It will be tough for Anthony Macri to get yet another Bob Weikert Memorial win, but we'll have to wait and see how it all plays out. 3 straight nights of action at the Speed Palace, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday coming up this week. Remember, you can watch all of the action live here on FloRacing. Now, earlier on this week, we had Tony Laporta sit down with full-time high roller on his Rookie of the Year campaign, Danny Sams III, and we get to listen into how things have gone so far for him this season.
In the pits at Utica Rome Speedway, but life on the road, especially with Danny Sams, is not in the pits because you're a positive and uplifting person. How is your first year chasing a national championship going?
Everyone told me it was going to be really hard, really challenging, and they were right. But it's also been really fun. It's probably just as tough as what we did last year, and we're having a lot of fun. The downtimes during the week, we try to find something fun to do, and most of the time we're just working on this race car, but doing it as a family, and it's actually been quite fun.
Now, it's your first national tour, first time, I mean, you win all around the country last year like you talked about, but now it's different because you have to be at races and you can't take nights off and you can't go back home and you have to be on the road. Does that added pressure ever show up in maybe ways that you didn't expect it to?
Honestly, I've been pretty tough on myself throughout the whole go all the time, even last year to this year, but I feel like it's actually been a little easier to say, like, pressure-wise, because we have that guidance, we know where we're going, we can get a plan with racing, and if it's going to rain out, we still have to be there regardless. We don't have to worry about making other plans and that type of stuff. But like I said, we've kind of made a schedule, and we know where we want to run. The I guess the toughest thing is we heard an engine in Texas, and for a little team like us, that can really put us behind the 8 ball.
You're doing good with your YouTube content. If you don't follow him already, go over to YouTube and check out Danny Sams. What's the YouTube channel?
Danny Sams Third.
Danny Sams Third. Okay, now, I want to talk about what's really interesting about you, and it's not you at all.
Okay.
Last week, we were sitting around at Tri-City and learned a lot about your girlfriend and the fact that she's not a normal, just, private citizen. She defends this country as a member of our U.S. military, and I'm not trying to be funny here. Tell me more. It's Haley, right?
Yes, Haley's great. You'd see her at the t-shirt trailer, you never know any different. She's a E4 in the United States Air Force, and she's getting deployed to Iraq here in November, and she'll be gone for 6 months, and she's a little wartime, ready to get after a person, so definitely don't make her mad, because I know she's got some moves, but she is defending our country and doing a great thing for us, but she's also out here on the road being a great person as herself. She's great, she works hard, and I couldn't ask for a better girlfriend.
I think that is so cool. We just learned about that last weekend running through Lakeside and Tri-City. What did she say? Backdoor operator on a C-130?
Yeah, so she flies in a C-130, and a lot of times she's a load commander. Like when to drop the load, she'll go out with load. So she jumps out of planes all the time. And you never know it to her. And like she goes to base, and I'm like, oh, how'd it go? She'll be like, good. And I'm like, what did you do? Oh, we jumped out of the plane. I'm like, you could have elaborated here a little bit. So she's really cool, and she's definitely not about herself. And like you said, you just found out we're a third through the season. She's definitely not look at me all the time. So she's really great, really reserved, and pretty crazy what she's doing for all of us.
If I did that, if I was friends with anybody to that, that'd be the first thing out of my mouth is telling people I jump out of airplanes. This person I know jumps out of airplanes. So we thank her, and we thank you for being so humble about it. But I think that's something you guys absolutely should promote. Behind you right now, you got Ben McAuliffe, the Australian wizard. I don't know. I wanted to go a lot of different ways with that.
Okay.
Your dad, Danny Sams II. Your mom's back home, tending to things after the passing of your grandfather.
Yes.
Again, we're awful sorry to hear about that.
Thank you.
But this is a family operation plus Ben. That's wild. I mean, your mom and dad and Ben are it. They are your crew. It's just you guys out here.
Yeah, so dad's crew chief, self-taught. He knows what he's doing, though. I mean, we're plenty fast. I feel like I'm still holding the car back for the most part of it, and Ben's done a great job. He does a lot of the labor work that no one really wants to do, and he's just as committed and wants to be a part of it. And like you said, when mom's here, she'll be working on the engine or doing this and that. And we got a little family operation going on, and Haley's in the t-shirt trailer all the time. She handles that all by herself, and I've got it made. I'm lucky. I have the greatest people around me, and they're doing everything they can do to help me succeed.
So it's safe to say that your first year chasing a national tour and having a schedule with a championship, it's actually going a little bit more enjoyable than maybe you expected it to.
Actually, yes, that's a good way to put it. I'm thinking I'm enjoying it more than I expected I would. I thought it'd be more long, hard, grueling. I compared it a lot to Ohio Speed Week of last year, where it was 9 days straight, 9 different tracks. But we get a break, and the drives are long, but we get a whole day to drive. It's not, we usually don't race day after day, and it's actually, like I said, been a little bit easier.
Ohio Speed Week, that's where you met your crew member, Ben McAuliffe.
Yes.
The Australian assassin. And it's also where you met your girlfriend, isn't it?
Yes.
Ohio Speed Week.
Yeah.
Dreams come true at Ohio Speed Week. Danny Sams graduating. He's on the road with us in 2025. They're getting this thing ready to hit it for another night here with Kubota High Limit Racing. Danny, thanks for talking to us.
Thank you.
All right, getting into our third segment of the High Limit Room, we are now joined by social media expert Brian Walker and pit reporter for High Limit Racing Tony Laporta. In this segment, we try and give you maybe some of our ideas for some good wagers to maybe put your money on for Grandview and Port Royal coming up this week. If you want to get involved more with wagering on the racing, then you can go to nxtbets.com/playhlr. While you are there, you can get a sign-up bonus, and it'll show you which sportsbooks are available in your region right now. So, as we always do here on the High Limit Room, we'd like to tell you where we're at. We are in Allentown, Pennsylvania, the Comfort Inn and Suites. I am in room 316. Brian, room 220. Is that right, Brian?
Yep, you got it.
The
Tony's
Wi-Fi not the best this week. No, Tony, where are you at?
I am actually back home in Indianapolis. I made the run Saturday evening once we canceled at Utica Rome to get back in time. Just a short little 10-hour drive from Allentown, PA. After dropping you guys off, I ran back to Indianapolis for day 2 of qualifying, Chase, for the 109th running of the Indianapolis 500, which was amazing yesterday.
And it sounds like you just woke up after being awake for 23 hours in a row.
You might not be completely incorrect with that statement. I am getting ready after we wrap recording this to climb back in the rental car and go straight back to see you guys and have even more fun on the road with High Limit Racing.
What kind of rental car did you
Absolutely. Well, Brian, last week,
What kind of rental car did I get?
get?
Probably the most cheaply made, uncomfortable Kia, or no, it's a Mitsubishi mid-size SUV, and it's awful. So I can't wait to return that thing when I get back to Allentown tonight. You guys can play rock, paper, scissors to determine who comes and picks me up from the airport, and I'm ready to get back into our much nicer Ford rental car. So yeah, not a good rental car, but it was a last second deal. I booked it in the car riding with you guys from New York to Pennsylvania, and it got me here. That's all that matters.
The old Mitsubishi getting the job done. Well, Brian, last week we had Rico Abreu get a win at Kokomo, and Justin Peck got the win at Ransomville. I cannot remember. I'm sure you've got the odds pulled up. What was Rico's odds on Monday? And then Peck, the Rodman Risk hitting on Saturday at Ransomville. What were those guys' odds heading into that one?
Peck, I know, was plus 635. It was his best odds of the year, which I mean makes sense. He's going into Ransomville. He was already on a 3-race podium streak. And that was, you hit the Rodman Risk that night. I think that was the second time you hit the Rodman Risk. Going back to Kokomo, if I can just pull it up real quick. Rico, I want to say, was around plus, I got it right here, plus 850. Fourth best odds. Peck was really high again, so the odds makers are really picking up on Justin Peck and what Rudine Racing and that Ford Performance engine are hitting on right now.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, his last 4 finishes third, second, and first. So I think, the guys over at NXTbets.com are starting to figure out that Peck is going to be a pretty serious contender. Going into this week at Grandview and Port Royal, remember last year at Grandview, it was a last lap pass by Brent Marks on Tyler Courtney to get the win. So maybe those two guys looking good for potential $5 bet or something going into that. But also you cannot count out the guys like Dietrich and Macri who will be in the field for both Grandview and Port Royal. But the one guy I am very curious to see what his odds are looking like for this week at both races, because he has not raced with us so far this season, is Chase Dietz. I think that he could certainly be a guy to sprinkle a little bit on going into either Port Royal or Grandview.
Yeah, I mean, Chase Dietz has been on a heater all year long, really, ever since getting in that 23 car. It feels like he's on the podium every single time I look at a race in central Pennsylvania. I mean, whether it's Williams Grove, Lincoln, Port Royal, it doesn't matter where. So I would imagine that success translates to Grandview this Tuesday night. And then obviously he's going to be a contender come Weikert weekend at Port Royal. I mean, the rest of the Grandview is, I think, always exciting because the posse doesn't run there a lot. And Carini will tell you all the time that it's not really central Pennsylvania. It's out on the East Coast or the eastern side of the state a lot. It's not a weekly track. They really only run now High Limit and Speed Week in July. So it's always exciting to see. It's pretty much even between the high rollers and the posse out there. It's just about who unloads fast and who can execute.
Yeah, and Port Royal's a little bit more of an even playing ground for both sides. Most of the high limit drives have gotten a lot of laps at Port Royal, along obviously with the PA Posse. They run there on a weekly basis. But Tony, now let's kind of transition back to what we saw this last week. You were down in Victory Lane at Kokomo Speedway with a very happy Rico Abreu, but then also a very sad and a very depressed Justin Peck there. Tell us what it was like to have, having to interview Peck after having the win snatched away from him like that.
Yeah, I mean, Chase, you've been in that position, right, for so many years with the Outlaws, where you might get to go from talking to a guy who's literally on top of his world and the sprint car world to going straight to talking to somebody who maybe just gave it up or just had it taken from him. So, it was really, really two wild highs and lows running the gamut in Victory Lane, going from talking to Justin from what happened with him after just having spoke to Rico. One, I'll say it was really cool to talk to Rico because he's always great to interview and he's always fun. But if you remember the last time he stood in Whiskey Myers victory lane, he didn't get up on top of the wing. He didn't celebrate too hard. He climbed up on the right rear tire, waved to the crowd, and climbed down because he was kind of bummed out after getting physical and things not going exactly the way he wanted at Lakeside. So to have Rico elated, to have Rico happy, that was always fun. And then you go to Justin, and man, it was hard. I think he was doing everything from fighting back tears to wanting to cuss, to just wanting to go back in time. So, but both those guys are professionals, and you could just kind of tell by looking at Justin Peck. He was already thinking about the next chance he would get to go out there and prove what he and that 26 Rudine Racing team are capable of. And he didn't waste his time, right? He didn't squander the opportunity when it was presented to him, and he did exactly what he had to do. I think we were all talking about it, Brian, Chase, you, Anthony, and I in the car once we left. Man, my heart was in my stomach when Aaron Reitzel got to Justin Peck with 1 lap to go in New York at Ransomville. I thought Reitzel had a real legitimate shot, and it was like, what's Peck going to do? He played it perfectly and came back. So, yeah, two very different sets of emotions in victory lane at Ransomville and Kokomo, but fun to talk to those guys.
Yeah, definitely exciting stuff over there at Ransomville as well. And that's probably a PR guy's dream, right, Brian? I mean, you have a last lap pass at Kokomo, and then that guy that got passed, a few days later, the next race, he gets a win, his first of the year, the first for Rudine, the first for Ford Performance with High Limit. So that had to be pretty easy to write that story that night.
Yeah, that's one of the easy ones. It's always exciting seeing a bit of a redemption story like that with Justin. I think it was the third closest finish in High Limit history on Monday night, losing a heartbreaker like that and then coming back out and doing what he did in New York. And talking about that last lap, Tony, like I was in the infield and I see Justin's catching lap traffic, which is obviously what holds him up, and Aaron's coming. I was looking at Alex Brown, Justin's girlfriend, and she was freaking out. Like she said afterwards, flashbacks to Vietnam. It was pretty funny watching her react, but Justin held on and got the job done.
Well, and I just want to jump in there and make sure that nobody hears this and thinks, oh, we were worried Reitzel was going to win. We didn't want to see that. That's not what I mean, and I'm sure that's not what anybody is thinking. I mean, maybe Alex Brown's thinking that she wants to see her boyfriend and their team win, but it was more just like, man, can Justin Peck not have heartbreak again for a second race in a row. Reitzel's already got a couple of victories this year. Not saying that doesn't mean he deserves more. But, after having been down there so close to seeing what happened to Peck in Kokomo, you're kind of in the moment. You're like, oh, man, I hope this guy doesn't have to go through that pain again. And no doubt both of those two are going to continue to battle and rack up wins as the year goes on. You were just really afraid, like, is this going to be a super depressed guy when the feature is over again here tonight, talking about Justin Peck?
Yeah, social media was a buzz after the win for Rico. Just an incredible finish over there at Kokomo Speedway. And then, social media was a buzz again on Saturday because I feel like, or make that Friday, excuse me, because I feel like there are a lot of Justin Peck fans out there. And to see him win in dramatic fashion like that after what happened earlier in the week is definitely a pretty cool deal. Now, back to Ransomville a little bit as well. We saw, these Northeast locals, man, we have got to keep an eye on them every single time we show up. Danny Varon run top 5. You had Jordan Poirier, P6 in the main, and then Jonathan Preston, fastest in hot laps, fastest in qualifying, ends up 9th in the feature. Tony, one of my favorite things about this job is, we've got our 14 high rollers, right? We've got those guys that are with us every race, but I love it when guys like that come into our series and run well and make a name for themselves for 1 or 2 nights out of the year.
Oh man, I absolutely, Chase, and that's what's so cool about sprint car racing, right? Like you have your big marquee, premier levels of motorsport in the country and in the world, and you pretty much know who you're going to see every week, right? That those series compete. It's just like the NFL, the NHL, the MLB. You don't see a random team pop up at that level, but in sprint car racing, that's exactly what you see. And how solid was Danny Varon to just live in the top 5 for practically that whole feature on Friday night in Ransomville. You talked about Preston. Brian, when you went over there to take his photo for the Capital Custom Trailers QuickTime Award, he was talking to both you and I. Jonathan was saying, he didn't believe it. He was like, sure. He kept saying, there's no way I'm quicker than these guys that are, traveling through the area. Brad said it in the opening segment interview that we aired on the broadcast. He said something along the lines of, you don't think of the Northeast when you think of 410 sprint car racing. And I think that you should, because they have racy tracks. They have very competitive drivers. Yeah, the 360s are maybe what you think of a little bit more, but that just gets those guys all the more prepared to modulate the throttle and work around those glass slick racetracks up there. Racing up in New York is always fun, and I really wish we could have gotten Utica Rome in, but yeah, it was cool to see those guys that we don't ever see during the rest of the year. It feels like run so well. Huge points implications, mostly for Brad after struggling while the rest of the guys behind him ran as well as they did.
Yeah, and speaking of the points, I did want to give a little update here because things are getting very, very tight right now, Brian. Brad Sweet's still with the lead, but Tyler Courtney, after his second place run at Ransomville, had a decent run as well at Kokomo. That lead for Brad Sweet is now down to 29 points over second place Tyler Courtney. It's a tie for third between Rico Aber and Brent Marks, 72 points back. Fifth is Justin Peck now. He's 97 behind. Aaron Reitzel, minus 108, and Casey Kane, seventh at minus 173. And the reason I go back to seventh place and, kind of stopping there, the Outlaw point lead for David Gravel over Buddy Kofoid is more than 173. So high limit right now after 12 or 13 races, Brian. There are more guys. There are 7 guys in the same amount of points compared to the Outlaws, where it's 1 to 2. Having that same amount of gap. It's pretty crazy what we got going on right now.
Yeah, I mean, this points race is wide open. We still got 40 some odd races left. And I think it was the Weikert weekend last year where Sunshine took the point lead from Brad, too. So you very well could see it happen again where Brad Sweet falls out of the championship lead this week. All of Pennsylvania is a good place for Rico Abreu. Brent Marks is home. Justin Peck's as hot as he is. Aaron Reitzel won at Port Royal last year with us. Anything can happen this week. You saw it at Lakeside. I mean, Brad was just in the wrong place at the wrong time and had a DNF, and then a bad run at Ransomville, and this thing is tightening up in a hurry.
It certainly is, and it's going to be fun to watch. And last year, Brad did get a win at Port Royal, but there was one night where he ran 18th over there as well. So 3 nights straight, Tony. This could be an interesting, the points could look very interesting after 3 nights at Port Royal.
And Chase, that 18th place night came at the Weikert finale.
Yeah.
And you talked about this the first year in the event. It's been a 3-night deal. Well, last year it was a 2-night deal, and it got rained out on the first night. So we only had 1 night on track for the Weikert last year, and Brad started 18th. He finished 18th, and he and the rest of that Napa team could just not get their arms around the Port Royal Speedway in just the 1 night they had on track. So, yeah, after a 12th or 13th place run wherever he finished at Ransomville, to coming back to Port Royal in the late spring and the same time of year last year that he struggled big time, this... you're never going to count Brad Sweet out, right? You're never going to say he's not a threat for the championship. But boy, he needs to get a little bit of a tighter grip on these Northeast tracks. But everybody struggles for grip when we come to this part of the country, it feels like.
Yeah, and did want to mention as well, Tyler Courtney, Brent Marks, and Aaron Reitzel all ran the last Port Royal Speedway local show there, so they've at least got a couple laps heading into this weekend. Now, we talked about the points, and we did have a guy, or maybe 1 or 2 people, asking us about an update to the franchise and who would be getting, as of right now, the next couple of franchises. And so, of course, social media expert Brian Walker has got all those numbers for us. So, Brian, obviously this is changing, every single race. Who is in a franchise position and who is not. But can you give us an update as of right now, heading into Grandview, who is in those spots?
Yeah, so obviously we had over the offseason, the top finishers from last year was Casey Kane Racing 49, the Clausen Marshall 7BC, Rico Abreu 24, and Murray Marks 19. They all got the initial wave of charter or franchises. the Roth Motorsports 83 forfeited theirs, didn't come back this year. So we're giving out 6 in the next wave. We had 7 returning teams. So it's just one guy's going to get left out right now. You would say 4 are kind of sitting pretty right now. The Jason Myers 14, Ridge & Sons 87, the Rudine 26, and the Book Motorsports 13. It's based off your average points finish over the 2 years. The 14 is at 7.5, the 87's at 8. The 26 is at 8.5, and the 13's at 9. They're all pretty much in a good spot to get a franchise after this season. But behind them is a 3-way tie for the final 2 franchises. So that is where every single point from last year and every single point from this year matters a ton. As of right now, the tiebreaker is, if you're tied in average finish, the best single season result. So as of now, the Casey Kane number 9 and the CJB Motorsports number 5 have the last 2 spots. And outside looking in, only off a tiebreaker is the Rod Gross Motorsports 88. And I mean, it's a scenario where if Casey falls back or goes up, it has a drastic effect on everyone. The same with CJB 5 and the same with Tanner Thorson's 88. Right now, going into Grandview, you're looking at Casey's 60 up on Chase Randall to hold on to the spot where he's at right now in 7th. Tanner is probably the closest to making a change for everyone. He's only 12 points back of Jason Myers Racing 14 for 9th in points. But Brenham back there too. He's not far behind. I think he's 27 behind Danny Sams. And he's looks like 66 up on Cy Lynch. So every single position is going to have a huge impact on the franchise system.
Yeah, that is something we'll be paying attention to all throughout this season to see who gets those final couple of franchises. Now, a couple more things to talk about here in this week's edition of the High Limit Room. I did want to circle back to the finish that we saw at Port Royal last week because obviously that's where we're going this upcoming weekend, and we're hoping that we can get a racetrack like we saw for this last race there during their weekly show. But Tony, how you watched that finish between Anthony Macri and Garrett Bard? That is Port Royal right there at its finest, and if we can get 3 nights like that at Port Royal this coming weekend, it is going to be can't miss television on FloRacing.
Some would even call it can't miss streaming on FloRacing, Chase. Everybody knows, you guys in the car know that I'm not exactly the biggest fan of half miles. I love to see sprint cars, try to sort of figure it out on smaller bull ring style racetracks. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Okay, Port Royal was in great condition. It was super, super racy, and as always, if you go to the internet, you would see as always a bunch of opinions. But it did seem like a lot of people agreed that when you get a half mile right, as they call it, and you can race all over it. It's some of the best racing you're going to see, and absolutely Port Royal provided that. Track prep is always such a black magic, it feels like, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I'm no track prep expert. I'm not even a track prep rookie. We just hope that we get to every track, and it's wide, it's fast, and it's raceable, up high, down low. And for a weekend as important, with as much money on the line and with just as much notoriety around it as the Weikert, you really are excited to see what the staff at Port Royal can provide. Whenever you go there, right, it's just a great atmosphere. They do such a good job, surrounding the racetrack with a big event, whether you're in the pits, whether you're in the grandstands. It doesn't matter. It's always a cool feeling when you're at Port Royal. And then when the racing lines up with that, boy, it's a great place to go and have a race. So the weekly show was great, and hope we have more excitement and more of the same once the high rollers get on track.
Yeah, it would be very cool, Brian, to see a finish like that for $75,000. Danny Dietrich got the win last year. A huge win for him, the highest paying win that he's ever had in his career. And this will be the highest paying race of the season so far. We've had a couple of $20,000 to win shows here and there, but $75,000 coming up. There's going to be more than 50 cars showing up. So if we can get a finish like that for a big payday, that would be an awesome way to finish off the week. But looking forward to seeing somebody win a really big paycheck coming up this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, if that last caution doesn't come out last year at the Weikert, we have a finish just like that. I mean, Tyler Courtney and Danny Dietrich were going to be side by side at the checkered flag for $75,000 if that last caution doesn't come out. And we just saw it, so it wouldn't be surprising to see another barn burner at the Speed Palace. As far as the $75,000, it's going to be interesting. We saw it last year. Some outlaws came in on Sunday. You know, Danny Dietrich, and everyone that helps with the Weikert, they've built a format to where, obviously it's 3 days, a 3-day event, but every day is separate from each other. So you can show up on Sunday if you want, and you're still just as in the hunt as Brad Sweet and Anthony Macri and everyone in the building. So it'll be interesting to see if we get any outsiders come in and try to steal some money. We saw David Gravel, Logan Schuhart, I think, all come last year, but I stayed with the posse. It's going to be exciting to see. That's a lot of money.
Certainly is. Yeah, the Outlaws are in Ohio. They do not race on Sunday. So, I mean, potentially they could make a really long trip over there to partake in Sunday's action. Now, the final thing I wanted to talk about here on the High Limit Room is former High Limit Room co-host Kyle Larson going to start 21st, I believe, is the official starting position for him at the next week's Indy 500. Now, I am not an Indy 500 expert, but Tony, obviously you are there, or you were there yesterday. Do you think Kyle's got a shot at this thing this year?
Does he have a shot? Yeah, absolutely, right? I mean, as long as you start the race and you're in the field, you've got a shot. That's the motivational speaker in me, right? 21st is pretty far back in a field that fast and in a race that hectic. A lot goes on, man. It's just like any race, right? A lot can go on. They're going 230 plus miles an hour around that place. And Kyle just, unfortunately, I think he's the best race car driver of his generation, right? I don't want that to get lost in this at all. But he doesn't race those cars more than once a year. And he does it at probably the hardest place you could possibly imagine to do it, at the biggest event. So 21st, does he have a shot? Yes, absolutely. I'm not going to be shocked if he wins, but coming from that far back in the field with as little experience as he has, it would be something that probably only Kyle Larson could do, if I'm being completely honest with you. So either way, it'll be an awesome thing to watch. It'll be super cool. It's been fun to watch him on track. We had YouTube TV up, watching day one of qualifying and watching him go out there. It's been super treacherous, super tricky. These cars are a handful this year, and I'm pulling for him. I picked up a Kyle Larson T-shirt where it's got the sprint car, it's got his midget, it's got his cup car, it's got his Indy car, just showing off everything he races. And I'll probably be wearing that underneath my my High Limit Racing polo Sunday at the Weikert, because I'm really excited to see how he does.
I have an Indy 500 stat for you.
What do we got?
Please,
I'm excited to learn about it.
Indy 500 has been won from 21st or worse as far as starting position 7 times. Do you know who and when the last time was?
Oh God, no, I don't even have an idea. I had no idea anybody has come from that far back.
Oh yeah, last time was in 1974 when Lone Star JR took his McLaren from 25th to the win. So I mean,
Lone Star JR, Johnny Rutherford, big fan of Kubota High Limit Racing. He was at the Avanti Windows and Doors Monday Mayhem, although I think we ran it on a Tuesday last year. He came out with Doug Bowles at Kokomo last spring and hung out with us and took in some racing. So, Kyle can do it. Kyle can do anything, right? He's our Lord and Savior. I'm eager and I'm excited to see how the race unfolds on Sunday.
I might sprinkle a few dollars on Kyle Larson to win the Indy 500. That'll get me definitely interested in watching it even more. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this week's edition of the High Limit Room. Brian and Tony, thanks for coming on. I know Tony's got a long drive to make to get back over here for Grandview tomorrow. Thank you all for watching. What's that? What's going on?
Before we go off, can I just make one request?
No. We got to go.
You got to give Brian a different title besides social media expert, because it sounds like you're being sarcastic, calling him the social media expert.
He is.
Like everybody on the internet who thinks they know more than anything. We got to come up with a new title for Brian Walker other than social media expert. It sounds like you're making fun of him.
Brian, do we need to do that?
You come up with whatever you want.
Brian, are you there? Do we need to change it?
I'm trying. This Comfort in Wi-Fi is something else.
Okay, well, we'll think of something new next week for Brian Walker's nickname. Stay tuned for that. We will be back next week to preview the next couple of races. We'll recap this week's races. Tony and Brian, thanks for jumping on here, and we'll see you all hopefully this week at the racetrack, whether it's Grandview or Port Royal. If not, make sure to tune in on FloRacing. That's all we've got for this week's edition of the High Limit Room.